I'm going to talk to you about expressivity, and my title is a provocation, and it basically comes from my past. So I used to be a dancer. I trained as a ballet dancer, and I was injured and I couldn't continue that career, but it's still very much in my bones and my muscles. And like Luisa was talking about, I also went through this vocabulary learning experience of specifically classical ballet. And I remember something that was always there, and I've always had it, even when I studied psychology, it kept in my mind this idea of expressivity in a movement. That a movement can be just a movement, or it can express something. And that came from my ballet teachers, because they were very much into this idea of obviously teaching me the technique, teaching me the words, the individual words, but also helping me to endow them with meaning through expression. It's like a bit like one teacher once said, an actor, he will say the different words, but he can say them very monotonously. He can just say a sentence, or he can actually express something with his voice, the way he modulates his voice. And actually, they said the same is for your body. You cannot just make these movements and expect that to be all there is to a dance. And I was always intrigued. Do lay participants, people, audience members understand the difference? There are obviously many important dancers that have said something about this, and they're very clear about it. For example, Sylvie Guillem said once that technical perfection is insufficient. It's an orphan without the true soul of a dancer. Very metaphorical speaking. Also Martha Graham, different technique. Great dancers are not great because of their technique, they're great because of their passion. However, like many dance teachers, dance pedagogues, and scholars also notice, like for example, this quote from Janet Karen shows that the process of transmitting ballet's complex technique to young dancers can interfere with the innate processes that give rise to efficient, expressive, and harmonious movement. Basically meaning that we can get so caught up, especially as young students of ballet or of any probably language of dance, we can get very caught up in only learning the technique and being perfect at that. However, that is not all. To give you an example, every morning you have your technique class and you do a tendu. This is a very normal word, let's say a word and a movement in dance. Every morning and the same movement on stage, you are not going to do just the technical movement. You're going to give them the expressivity or the emotion that you feel that goes to that movement in that moment, and that word that you try to convey to the audience. And actually, then I studied, and I found out that in emotion psychology, so a branch of experimental psychology, if you want, there's also something like a line of research that looks at genuine or fake or just technically right emotional expressions. It was especially Paul Ekman who pioneered this word. For example, you've heard about the Duchenne smile, literature probably, that there's a fake smile, like this, I'm using my muscles now in the right way to show a smile. But I think you all know this is not genuine. But if there's something bubbling up in me when I see my friends there, then I smile. And something experimental psychologists have shown in the muscles of my face actually is different between a fake, a staged, and a genuine emotional expression. And I felt that was very similar to what actually my dance teachers had already tried always to teach me to use my muscles, my body, my words from my grammar in a way to express something. And I was very lucky to work actually with Manos Takiris and Ruben Acevedo in London. That was briefly after I was lucky to work with Beatrice. And we were at the Warburg Institute. So that's an institute for art history. But there's now a neuroscience lab. They're interested in questions around the arts and how we perceive the arts. And I got them on board with this idea. Let us study the difference in observer responses, naive observers, when they see a movement that is just technically correct as compared to technically correct and emotionally expressive. So as you see, these two are obviously the same drawings, but to emphasize, is there a difference at all between these two for a lay audience? So in London, there are loads of dancers. You have to hunt them down a bit because they hide and they have long training schedules. Beatrice can tell you a lot about that. But we were lucky to be able to work with students from the Rambert School of Ballet and Contemporary Dance in London. And we asked them to please choreograph short sequences of dance of 8 counts and come to us to be recorded. We did not collect stuff from the internet here. I'm from this tradition that tries to systematize, to reduce, to try to control things. And as Beatrice was saying, we generated one stimuli library, and we generated a second one with these guys named here from the Rambert School. And as I said, they came in and danced basically their little sequences. We got 60 sequences in total of ballet dance and 60 sequences of contemporary dance. And we asked them to dance them twice. So one time just technically correct, so use the grammar in the correct way, and the second time put something in there. Give some sort of expressivity that you think matches this. So we ended up with something we called the Warburg Dance Movement Library. And we had 4 different dancers, and just to emphasize these, or to illustrate, these stimuli are 6 seconds long, corresponding to 8 counts in ballet or in contemporary dance, and we have roughly 200 after the norming experiment. I would like to do a little test with you. I'm going to show you one sequence, danced twice. And it's going to be an expressive and an inexpressive one, but I'm not going to tell you which is which. And then afterwards we do the test, yes? Yes. I know it's late, but now you wake up and now you look, you're these guys down here, and have a look at this one. And number 2. Who thinks the expressive was the left one? The right one? Awesome. You're like our participants. And it's not even because there's a bias of dancers here. Very nice. You see, there is something in the way you move. Okay, so we obviously put this to an actual empirical experiment. We showed people little clips in a lab. Beatrice recognizes this one. But yes, it was 6 seconds long. At the end, we ask for aesthetic judgment and for expressivity judgments. It was done in 2 online studies, and as I said before, with half ballet and half contemporary dance clips, mixed all up, and people didn't know what was going on here. We just asked them, dancers really need your help. They need to understand how do they need to dance so that something arrives at you, like help them choose the moves that are the best. That was the story. And we had them rate different qualities. So one was a manipulation check, so we had them rate expressivity. And expressivity, as we had created the stimuli and the library with this idea with these 2 categories, so we needed to make sure that people are sensitive to this. And then we wanted to know, how much do you like each clip? And we did this in blocks, because if you ask this one after the other, you get a little bit of transfer of responses. And we also asked about beauty. And the results showed this. So this is a bit of a massive graph. I'm just going to walk you through it. On the top, you see that on the left, we have the contemporary dance results and ballet on the left. I'm very bad with life and rest. This is ballet. This is contemporary. Yes. And you see that the manipulation track, it worked. There was a difference in clips that were intended to be not expressive, just technically correct, and those that were intended to be correct, to be expressive, and that was the same for the ballet stimuli. Then something happened for the beauty ratings. So on the side here, on the y-axis, you can see what people were rating, always on a scale from 0 to 100, and you can see that for the contemporary dance, it did make a difference for people, whether or not they were expressive. So people like contemporary dance movements more when they're expressive compared to when they're not. Same for the liking ratings. They like them more, find them more beautiful and more likable, but not for the ballet. So ballet being a very formalist dance style, it didn't seem to matter whether it was just technically amazing or technically plus expressive. So emotional expressivity matters for people's aesthetic judgment of liking and beauty for contemporary dance, but less so potentially for ballet. Okay, so obviously we wanted to replicate this, and as I mentioned before, this was an online study. You don't always know what is happening there, and it's always good to maybe take people to the lab and see what happens there, and we got very similar results. Again, we invited, so in this case, 40 people to this lab experiment. People were asked to watch the clips on the screen, and in 2 blocks rate either expressivity and then later liking. How much do you like what you see? And the manipulation check again was successful, so there was a difference between the 2 categories for ballet and contemporary. So lay audiences with no dance experience get this difference. There's something in there. For the liking, so the aesthetic judgments of liking, there was slight deviation. Actually, it mattered for both dance styles. So in this more controlled environment, maybe people were more focused, and also, so both for contemporary dance and for ballet dance, people liked it more when they were expressive. And there was a difference actually between the not expressive ones. For the ballet, they were liked more even when they were not expressive. So it's something about this particular movement, that vocabulary, that lends itself to be liked also just by its physical or like the visual properties of the stimulus. So expressivity matters for aesthetic judgments, especially for contemporary dance and potentially also for ballet. So that was interesting for me from the point of coming as a little ballet dancer and learning these stuff and hearing this all the time, and that actually empirically it made a lot of sense what my dance teachers said. They were right. Expressivity modulates aesthetic experience of at least contemporary dance, we know for sure. And then here I have a slide that is empty, because now I just want to move straight into what we're doing at the moment. We have created another stimuli library because we're obsessed with making it even more better controlled, and the opportunities that are here at the Max-Planck Institute for Empirical Aesthetics are just massive. So we set out to create this amazing new stimuli library in collaboration with, for example, Luisa, and she made it possible to have a little collaboration with the Frankfurt Dance Company, and she introduced us to Anna Jung. And what we did was that we invited her, and in here, what you can see here was a huge green curtain, you can see here, and she then was recorded dancing, again, 8 counts of different sequences and dancing them with different emotional expressions. Note the credits, that was a huge team doing this, some remotely connected. So at the end, what was the idea is to deprive the stimulus of visual information and just end up with these silhouettes and have different emotional expressions. So she danced, I think it was in total 30 different sequences, 5 times, 1 neutral time, technically correct, and then 4 times with 4 other emotional expressions: happy, sad, fearful, and angry. And she did it with ballet dance and some more contemporary movements. And I just want to show you, this was in December, the stimuli have arrived last week from our collaborators, and I just want to aesthetically move you, hopefully, by these amazing visuals. More ballet-y one, more contemporary. however, using some moves from the vocabulary also. Okay, the final slide is empty. It's where normally conclusions go. I think we're not there at all. So it's a very, very young discipline, needs a lot of discussion still, especially interdisciplinarily. Very happy that we have an amazing board here, also hoping for David to share his knowledge of what he feels about this. And then, we will branch out to a general discussion, and I just want to say thank you, though. Thank you to you all for coming. I'm completely mind blown by how many people came. That's really great. I'd like to thank the directors for making this kind of work possible and these type of events. Colleagues and friends, they pick you up when you're sad and the experiments don't work. That's very important too. Then all the dancers, filmmakers, and artists that are engaged with all this work and hopefully continue to do so. And MPI staff that make all this possible. There are pretzels in the end. These things are important. The light works. It's going to be filmed. We have Stefan in the back. We have Martina here. We have student assistants. We have a lot of people who make these kind of events happen. Thank you. And Beatrice already said it. There's an event in London in September. And please all sign up. This is amazing. We're going to meet each other. We're going to discuss, write papers, do experiments. So please come. Thank you. That's it.